Okay, hey guys, this is part 3 of the video talking about how I got into game development. I just took a couple of hours there just to reply to a few emails and get some late night food, which is pretty normal for me, so yeah, anyway. But I'm trying to remember what I was up to. So I think the last thing I was talking about was I just joined an outsourcing company in Shanghai. The name of the company was Ultizen. And so they wanted me to basically come on as like a BD person, and that's like a fancy way of saying like salesperson, really, because the goal was for me to set up contracts with overseas developers, and we would build the artwork for them. So that was really like my first sort of full-time big job in games. And it was really interesting because I remember the first like week or so, they basically like the first week they wanted me to go over to France for a convention called Game Connection. And Game Connection is basically like a big meeting place for game companies to meet other game companies. So, and they wanted me to go over there and, sort of sell our outsourcing services and, what we could do. And that was really kind of nerve-wracking. I was very excited and very nervous at the same time, because this was like the first sort of big trip I'd made as an employee. It's really the first business trip I ever made. And I didn't know very much about the industry at all. I didn't know a lot of the software or the process or the requirements, the cost, the timing, all of these things I really didn't know. So I went over there and I did sort of like a bunch of presentations, and luckily they didn't ask me too many questions, and luckily my boss at the time, he was with me and he was sort of answering questions. Actually, he was online. He didn't come with me, but he was online, sort of listening in, and could answer questions as I was doing them. So he was still here in the office in Shanghai. So that was a big step, and I think I didn't get so much game development knowledge from that company. That was more sort of like looking at the art side of things and how bigger games were developed, because they had a bunch of large projects going on, and we worked with some studios in the UK, a couple from Europe, and I got to sort of know like the art process of how levels were built in teams. And the teams that I worked with were pretty good. They knew how to handle scheduling and what could be done and what couldn't be done, and basically supported me and like giving me time estimates, and then I could arrange costs and sign the contract and all of this stuff. So, but that was actually challenging because at that point, I think art outsourcing studios, there's quite a lot in Shanghai. And so getting projects was difficult, and it's a difficult business model as well, a very difficult business model, because it is based on quality, but it's also based on price. So you have to compete with studios in perhaps cheaper locations who can do pretty much the same thing, and you don't have much control in that business model because they can always go somewhere else. It's not so much of a niche, the outsourcing business model. So as soon as the project stops, there's no long tail development. The long tail money. Sorry, as soon as that project stops, it's the end of the money. And that was very true in the next thing that I did. So I was with Ultizen for, oh boy, I don't know how long I was with them for. Not too long, maybe about until the middle of what was it now? 2007, maybe, I think, something like that. And the reason that I'd left is that two friends of mine, one of them who actually worked in Ultizen before, asked me to start a company with them, and that was an outsourcing company doing the same business model as Ultizen. So, and there's a ton of other studios here in Shanghai, so nothing like unique or anything. But my two friends said, "Hey, we want you to come on board with us because we need somebody to basically get the contracts, you know, or to somebody to reach out to the overseas publishers and developers and bring in, you know, the money, basically. So that was my main job, and that was my first sort of starting up a business entrepreneur. Like, the question for this video was really like, how did you go from being, you know, employee to entrepreneur, or developer to entrepreneur? That was really the first big scary step, but it wasn't too scary. Actually, the reason it wasn't too scary because at that time I was still teaching. In fact, I think throughout some of my time at Altazan, I was still teaching, and then I started to teach again during that time when I started up the company. So it was called Visual Idea Studio, and that was crazy. That was crazy mad, because we did we had so three of us, like me and my two friends, and then we had a couple of artists that we wanted to hire as well, and my two friends stopped really quick, and then got 2 or 3 artists in really quickly that were working in my friend's house. So it kind of overlapped a little bit with the previous company. So I was working Altazan, and then for a few weeks I was actually trying to start up this other company as well. And so every day after Altazan, I'd take a taxi and go to my friend's house, and then take a taxi back to my apartment after a few hours. And that was a lot of work again. Oh my God. Since around 2006, I was really been working hard. Really, I've not had like a normal 9 till 5 Monday to Friday thing since 2006. So like 9 years now or something. And that got kind of heavy as well, because I was working in Altazan. I was working, trying to build this new company, Visual Idea Studio, and trying to get contracts as well. So that it was a lot of emailing, a lot of calling people, a lot of trying to find company websites, trying to get in touch with their outsourcing manager or whoever, and trying to get this deal to get work. That was a real challenge in the beginning, but one of the interesting things was that we we never sat down and did the numbers. We never did that. That was so stupid of us. Oh. And I mean, we were not young, but we're just inexperienced in building a business. I don't think, it's nothing necessarily to do with being young, but we just didn't have experience doing the business, and so we didn't do any money calculation. We didn't figure out, oh, this guy costs this money, that guy costs that money. We have to buy computers. We have to buy, we've got rent, we've got bills, we've got our own salaries, we've got our own shares. Do we want to give ourselves a bonus every month or 3 months or whatever? We never sat down and did that. Oh, that was just stupid. Now, in the case of Co-op Play, I didn't do that either, but that was just because it started with me on my own, pretty much, just building on my own. So that's why it wasn't a big problem. I didn't have to sit and calculate this long investment sheet. But we went and got an office quickly, and I was saying to my friends, like my two partners, we didn't even calculate share properly. That's how inexperienced we were. We didn't even calculate shares. It was just like, oh, Martin, we'll give you 30%, and I was like, okay, but I didn't give any money to build the company, but you guys have given this much money, and then later they said, oh, well, you should give some money because you've not given any money to build the company. And I was like, well, we should have discussed this in the beginning, and that was a learning experience. Like I said, in the case of Cobalt Play, the company now, it doesn't matter so much because it was just me. But back then, yeah, if you're going to have partners and shares and commitment and money on the table, you gotta get that stuff right straight from the beginning. Who's going to do what is the, I think, founder vesting, and what are the percentages, bonuses, what are the fallbacks and all this stuff. So we really didn't do any of that. And then we got an office, and I said to my partners, and this is my partners wanted to get an office, and we did, and that was like, I think, 9,000 RMB a month, which is about £900, which is about $1,300. Which is a lot of money, I think, each month, considering we could have hired 2 artists for that money. plus bills, plus management fee as well, I think. And we didn't have any clients. I think we had... No, we didn't have any clients. We had sort of one test going at that time, and we didn't have any clients. And I was saying to the guys, like, we really should like keep this in the home until we've got some steady work. I mean, we've got space, the bills, we can cover you. Obviously, the business will pay for the bills in the home, of course. We've got a couple of spare tables where we can sit people down. It's not that hard to get to, and since it's an overseas customer thing anyway, it doesn't really matter if they're not going to... It's unlikely that they're going to come to the office, at any point soon. But my friends were more sort of like eager to get into an office and build this as like an official business. And the reason why I said I'm a little bit different in this case is because I've always got this thing in my mind about not spending too much too fast. And I always juggle with that as well. Not to go off topic too much here, but I always say, no, don't spend too much. No, don't control your costs. Don't blow it on this thing. Don't get investment unless you need it. And maybe I'm wrong in all of that. Maybe I'm completely wrong, because my wife always tells me about this. They always say, oh, well, you should get investment. I'm like, well, then you got to spend time to get the investment. Then you got to commit to the investor. And then the business model's not any different. So we're not making tons of money right now. So why would we make tons of money with an investor? Do you know what I mean? There's no... Until we get something really, really right and we know exactly what we're doing, whether that's spending big money on advertising or making bigger games, what is the business model that we would approach that investor with? So... maybe I'm wrong with investment. I've done a video about that before, and maybe I've been too small for too long. But I mean, then again, I'll talk about this later. But I mean, Cobalt Play is not just me anymore. I guess in the way, because I'm sat here at home and I've been sitting at home doing work for 4 years. It feels like it's always kind of small, but it's growing, and it has grown, and we are hiring more people. So that's something I'm going to talk about in a bit anyway. That's kind of off the topic right now. So anyway, we did Visual Idea Studio, the outsourcing company, and I was working like crazy. Crazy, God, like I was working probably almost every day, and I was teaching English at the time because I wasn't taking any salary from Visual Idea Studio. We decided not to take any salary, which is not really a smart idea for a new business. If you're going to quit your job and you as three founders, and then you're going to go and build this company, not giving yourself salaries was really tough. And you might have that enthusiasm and that drive in the beginning to really make it happen. But after about 2 months, you suddenly realize, wait, I'm not making anything here, and I'm just killing myself. So that quickly became hard, and we had some tough customers as well. We had customers that just weren't paying, because this was 2008. This was 2008, and this was the year of the financial crisis, which I believe started to impact our clients, and therefore they weren't able to pay, and their money cash flow was bad, and therefore they couldn't send us money. So it was a lot of chasing up for me to do, and trying to catch up with studios, and we had some internal problems as well, and just cash just wasn't making sense. It didn't work. The business model didn't work. And it's one of those business models where it's based on I think an economy of scale is what it's called, whereby you only make big money if you've got like 1,000 people. It can never be huge with only like 10 people. It just won't happen, because you're paid based on the project. There's no long tail of cash flow. So that was something that I kind of learned in business and figured out, was make sure if you're doing a business that it's not just based on the hours that you input into the company. It can't be that way. If you want a big business, it's like it's like if a movie studio builds a movie and they calculate all of the hours, and then they say, okay, so the money that we'll make back is only based on the number of hours that we input into this, the number of man days or whatever. and then that's the end of it, and there's no long tail for the movie. That's not a good business model, in my opinion. It has to be very easily scalable, and not just based on manpower. So we had a couple more projects, and like I said, we had some internal problems, some disagreements. I remember my cousin came over to Shanghai at that point as well in 2008, and I didn't have much time to spend with him, unfortunately. But saying that, like, it sounds like it was a difficult thing, but it was also extremely exciting at points as well. It was a very exciting thing. It was like one of the, when you see one of those movies and it's like, for example, what's it called? Pirates of Silicon Valley. That's like the Bill Gates, Steve Jobs story, like movie. The one from the 90s, not the recent one with Ashton Kutcher, whatever his name is. The earlier one, which is actually way better in my opinion. Even though I've not seen the new one, I still think the old one is better based on seeing the new trailer. But it's like that movie where you see like a bunch of guys getting together in the garage and they're building something. Like at the start of that movie, Antitrust, with Ryan Philippe or whatever, and it's like those friends getting together and just working like crazy and filling themselves up with coffee or Red Bull and just trying to get this thing done, and they're going to change the world or whatever. That's what it felt like, and it was really exciting. Even though I was working like crazy. Finishing work at like 11 at night with my friends, and then jumping on their moped and then riding home, and all those friends living together and being excited. But the excitement quickly died down. Unfortunately, it went down fast. Within, a couple of months, the excitement went down, which was really a shame because it was a good experience. It really was. But when the cash flow stops, when the business doesn't make sense, and when you're losing money hand over fist, no amount of enthusiasm or friendship is going to keep it together, really. It's not a business. It's just losing. It's not going to work. And that's something I quickly learned as well. Or something that I learned after doing this business was, it's got to make sense. It's got to make money. And maybe that's where my my not risk aversion, but my control of spending came from, partly is because I'd seen, that you shouldn't, if you like The Office, for example, we spent 9,000 RMB on that Office. I thought we didn't need to. We really didn't need to, because 9,000 RMB could have kept us going for a couple more months, and we could have saved a lot more money. The guys didn't have to travel that far to the office, because it was based in one of the guys' homes, and one of the other guys slept there, and the other guy lived close. So I was like, well, why do you need an office? And but then again, I see other companies, and they build an office within a couple of weeks, and then they sell the company and they make millions. And I'm like, right, so maybe I'm doing something wrong here. So but anyway, that's what happened there. And we eventually closed down, and we just agreed, and we just said, okay, we'll forget this now. The money that will come in, we're owed about 16,000 RMB, which is about £1,600. We'll just split that between us, and then, Martin, you take this computer, and it's actually the one that I've got down there. That computer down there is actually the sort of the last remaining remnants. I'll show you guys, in fact. Down there. Sorry, I can't really see my screen. Can you see it? That one there, yep. This PC is, and that's the screen actually, I've not set it up, and the keyboard. That is the last sort of remaining remnants of that company, and I also have a printer from that company as well. Aside from, of course, all of the experience and the good memories and the friendships and so on. So, but yeah, so that's how that went. And then the next thing was EA Games in Shanghai. That was the next thing. So, but come back in a moment, guys. I'll get part 4 started. So stay tuned, and I'm going to put the link down in the description below. I'll be back shortly. Bye.